Hello again. Now in this video we're going to show you how we prepare paint for flooding, how we load the brush for flooding, and then how we flood between those lines that you see that we painted in earlier demonstrations. So what we've got to do now is change what's on the palette from paint that was suitable for tracing to paint that is suitable for flooding. And I've just stopped the film there so that you can really pick up on the fact that we're using the palette knife. And what we're going to do is cut off a slice from the lump and then put it over in the main body of the palette. There we go. And work with that paint and change that into flooding paint. Using the knife, as you can see, sorry it's a blurry photograph, but using the knife to transfer a bit of water rather than our brushes. So there is the paint that we're now mixing for flooding with the lump to one side at the top of the palette. Gathering up the paint around the lump and now putting a lid on top of it. That's a good idea. It stops the lump itself from drying out, of course, and it also stops us from making the lump too wet accidentally. Now that we've ground the paint enough with the palette knife, we can use our tracing brushes, or use our tracing brush to mix it a little and get a sense of how thick it is. There's a little test there. It's surprising how thick the paint is, but at the same time, it still is controllable. I'm just going to do a little test in a moment. There's no way in which you can know before testing what the paint is like. So everyone has to test. Twizzling and twirling as always. Now just going to those little test lines and seeing how the paint flows. Looks a little bit sticky there. Just a little bit sticky, I think. Perhaps the paint needs more mixing. Now you see, a little bit more water. Mix that in thoroughly. Twizzle and twirl. See how that goes. Yeah, that is, well, you'd have to be careful. That is actually quite liquid now, because you see how quickly it flowed, but it does flow very nicely. You just must be careful not to come down too close to the border lines when you do bring your brush down. Here we go. See how thick that paint is. Twizzle and twirl. Every time you load your brush you must twizzle and twirl. It's one of the main ways to stop your paint from blistering when it goes on this thick. There we go. More. Just pours off lovely. And when you flood, yes, the idea is to get really on top of the wall, which was built up from your copy trace and your strengthened line. Mixing. There we go, again. The paint simply pours from the brush, and really you've just got to be careful that it doesn't pour where you don't want it to pour. Now I'm just going to stop it there. What's actually happening is that the brush isn't making contact with the glass. The paint is so thick that the brush is pushing the top surface of the paint, and that's very important. You're just pushing liquid around, you're not making contact with the glass itself. So that way, although the paint goes on extremely thickly, you thin it out a little. Mixing again. Every time you load your brush, mix your paint. Little clean up now. So that's flooding. Changing the paint from paint that you use to copy trace and reinforce to thick paint that you can use to block in between or around those lines. Now, all of that in the past 5 videos, we've stopped and started a lot. So what we're going to do in the next video is do it all from start to finish. Undercoating, copy tracing, reinforcing and flooding in one video. So you'll see all the things we have to do with our paint, one after the other, without any pausing. So I hope you found that useful, and we look forward to talking with you soon. All the best. Bye-bye.